Body has been found in Oak Beach, and police believe there may be other bodies out there.
Yeah, and Liz, this is the barrier island to the south of the town of Babylon. An extensive search that goes on for a good mile along the bay here south of the town of Babylon. You could see crime scene investigators there, and then, Tony, if you want to come back out, you could see behind me, and then clear up the beach right here. There are multiple outposts here where they're right now sifting through the sand and looking for human remains. We know right now that they can confirm in the last couple of days they have found 2 bodies. We believe skeletal remains, one on Saturday, one today, and we're told possibly more.
For more than a decade, a string of unsolved killings known as the Gilgo Beach murders terrorized residents and confounded authorities on Long Island's South Shore, after a woman's 2010 disappearance led investigators to find at least 10 sets of human remains and launched a hunt for a possible serial killer. Authorities announced a major breakthrough in the case on Friday, charging New York architect Rex Heuermann, 59, with murder in connection to the killings of 3 of the 4 women who became known as the Gilgo Four. It's more than likely the police have solid evidence to connect Rex to at least 3 of these murders, but don't want to taint their case in any way. If they have enough evidence to push for the 3, they'll try and extract and confess to the other killings later on using specific techniques. But for now they need to focus on what they have, as if the other victims are later found out to not be victims of Rex, then it could cast doubt on the 3 he's currently being charged with. What else is worrying here is if the victims are not that of Rex, then someone else who did this is still possibly walking free. The suspect was taken into custody Thursday night. He's been indicted on 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder in each of the 3 killings. Melissa Barthelemy in 2009 and Megan Waterman and Amber Costello in 2010. In 2010, authorities find the first remains in the Gilgo Beach murders. Police discovered the first set of female remains in bushes along an isolated strip of waterfront property on Gilgo Beach while searching for another missing woman, Shannon Gilbert, a 23-year-old from Jersey City, New Jersey, who hadn't been seen since May 2010. The remains of Melissa Barthelemy, 24, were the first to be discovered in the case during the search on December 11, 2010. 2 days later, investigators discovered the remains of 3 additional victims: Maureen Bernard Barnes, Amber Costello and Megan Waterman, strewn across a half-mile stretch from Gilgo Beach. The 4 women, who were wrapped in camouflage burlap, worked as escorts who advertised on Craigslist and were last seen between July 2007 and September 2010. After Barthelemy's disappearance, authorities say her family received multiple taunting calls. In one of the calls, the suspect admitting to killing and sexually assaulting Miss Barthelemy. Those calls, authorities say, would later help unravel the case. In 2011, more remains were found, including a toddler and her mother. Police said in January 2011, calls from Barthelemy's cell phone had been traced to Midtown Manhattan, with the last 2 calls being made from around Madison Square Garden and Times Square. The caller hung up too quickly for authorities to pinpoint the exact location of the calls. On March 29, 2011, the partial skeletal remains of another woman were found several miles east of where the bodies of the Gilgo Four were discovered. The woman was first known as Jane Doe No. 5 before investigators identified her as Jessica Taylor, another escort whose partial remains were previously discovered in Manorville, 2003. The following month, on April 4, 2011, 3 more sets of remains were found on a stretch of Ocean Parkway in Suffolk County near the beach. They included a female toddler, an unidentified Asian male, and a woman initially referred to as Jane Doe No. 6. 1 week later, 2 additional sets of human remains were found in Nassau County, about 40 miles east of New York City, one of which was identified as the mother of the toddler through DNA analysis. The mother's partial remains were first discovered in 1997. The other sets of remains genetically matched with remains found in 1996 on Fire Island, significantly expanding the timeline and geographic reach of the investigation. In mid-April of the same year, Steve Cohen, an attorney for Barthelemy mother, said a man using the victim's cell phone made taunting calls and claimed that he killed Barthelemy. "Do you think you'll ever see her again?" the unidentified male caller asked Barthelemy's sister on August 2006-2009. "You won't. I killed her," he added and hung up. And this phone call ended after just less than a minute. Another phone call was placed in July 2009, just days after Barthelemy's disappearance. It was the first of 7 calls he made from Barthelemy's cell phone. Cohen said in the phone call, the unidentified male caller referred to Barthelemy as a whore in a short conversation with her then 15-year-old sister. In the final call, the man described in graphic detail to the victim's sister what he'd done sexually to Barthelemy. In December 2011, Gilbert's body was found in the wooded marshes of Suffolk County's Oak Beach. The beach is about 9 miles from where the other 10 sets of human remains were found. The authorities later said they believe Gilbert's death may have been accidental and not related to the Gilgo Beach slayings. In 2020, police released photos of a key clue and ID a victim. In January of 2020, Suffolk County Police released photos of what it said could be a significant piece of evidence, a black leather belt embossed with the letters WH or HM. The department also launched a website to collect new tips in the investigation. "We believe the belt was handled by the suspect and did not belong to any of the victims," former Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart told reporters at the time. On May 28, 2020, New York Suffolk County Police Department identified Jane Doe number 6 as Valerie Mack, a 24-year-old Philadelphia mother who went missing 2 decades earlier. The FBI helped identify Mack's remains using advanced forensic DNA technology. Using samples from her remains, Suffolk County investigators were able to find Mack's biological relatives through genetic genealogy, which ultimately led her to her adopted family and son. In 2022, police formed a task force to find the killer. In February 2022, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison formed a multi-agency task force to investigate the Gilgo Beach slayings. The task force included the Suffolk County Police Department, the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, the New York State Police, and the FBI. On March 14, 2022, Rex Heuermann was first mentioned as a possible suspect in the Gilgo Beach murder case after a New York State investigator identified him in a database. Investigators then started surveilling him and his family, and took pieces of garbage to obtain DNA samples, even a discarded pizza crust. As they closed in on Rex, investigators used cell tower records from thousands of possible individuals down to hundreds and then a handful of people. Next, authorities focused on residents who'd also matched a physical description provided by a witness who had seen the suspected killer. Authorities zeroed in on anyone with a connection to a green pickup truck a witness had seen the suspect driving, and that was according to 2 law enforcement sources with knowledge of the case. Later, authorities learned Heuermann drove a green pickup truck registered to his brother. Heuermann matched a witness's physical description, lived close to the Long Island cell site and worked near the New York City cell sites where the other calls were captured. Personal cell phone and credit card billing records revealed numerous instances where Rex was in the general location, as were the burner phones, which authorities say that he had with him at the killings. He used the cell phones to call the 3 victims and also used Bernard Barnes and Barthelemmy's cell phones when they were used to check voicemail and make taunting phone calls after the women disappeared. Authorities said that a search of Rex Heuermann's computer revealed that he had scoured the internet at least 200 times for details about the status of the investigation. Heuermann was also compulsively searching for photos of the victims and their relatives, and he was trying to track down the relatives, the district attorney has said. In late 2022, detectives recovered a cup believed to have been discarded by Heuermann, but they could not get a good DNA sample from it. And in 2023, Rex Heuermann has been arrested in some of the killings. In January of 2023, investigators got a complete sample of Rex's DNA from a leftover crust in a pizza box he threw out in the trash. During the initial examination of one of the victim's skeletal remains and materials discovered in the grave, the Suffolk County Crime Laboratory recovered a male hair from the bottom of the burlap the killer used to wrap her body. Analysis of the DNA found on the victim and the pizza thrown out by Rex showed showed the samples matched. Additionally, hair believed to be from Rex's wife was found on or near 3 of the murder victims. Prosecutors allege in a bail application citing DNA testing. The DNA came from 11 bottles inside a garbage can outside of Heuermann's home. On July 13, 2023, a suspect connected to some of the Gilgo Beach murders was taken into custody in New York City, marking the first arrest in the case. He was then transported back to Suffolk County Police Headquarters on Long Island. A day later, authorities identified the suspect as Rex Heuermann, a registered architect who has owned the New York City-based architecture and consulting firm RH Consultants and Associates since 1994. The case against Heuermann came together over 2 years with the restart of the investigation, in which investigators used the power of the grand jury, including more than 300 subpoenas and search warrants, to collect evidence and tie Heuermann conclusively to the murders. Not only that, but authorities have hinted that more charges could be coming, noting in court documents that Rex Heuermann has been tied to at least one other disappearance, that of B'nai Barnes, a woman who was later found dead. Rex Heuermann was arrested on the 13th of July 2023. It's currently only the 17th of July 2023 and has only been 4 days since his arrest. So there's more to come in the case of the Gilgo Beach murders, and not only that, but we'll try and tell if Rex Heuermann had any connection to the other victims found across the Gilgo Beach shoreline. If you liked any of this content, then please feel free to like the video, follow over on TikTok and subscribe on YouTube.